All right, let's switch things up a bit. We've been looking at some science news stories lately about evolutionary history, but let's look at some stuff from potential life in outer space. This is one of my favorite topics. I love talking about astrobiology and all this cool stuff. So, Enceladus, this article is from New Scientist. Enceladus shown to have all six of the essential elements for life. Reanalysis of icy rock grains from a ring of Saturn, fed by ice plumes from its moon Enceladus, has revealed the presence of phosphorus, the only key essential element for life that hadn't already been spotted. Very cool. Saturn's moon Enceladus is producing phosphorus, meaning that this icy moon holds all the essential building blocks for life as we know it. Every life form on Earth contains 6 key elements: carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. The known existence of these, bar phosphorus, on Enceladus, combined with a liquid ocean and a warm core, had already made the moon one of the most likely places for life. Ooh, continue reading. Yeah, I want to continue reading. Okay. Find signs of alien microbes on Enceladus. Back from 2018. Oh no! It won't let me finish reading the... Oh, what a bummer. Okay, well, I should have checked this out beforehand. Should have vetted my article. Bummer. Okay, well, not to fret. We do have the actual science article published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. So, yeah, it's not the end of the world. Let's dig into this. Let's look at the significance and the abstract. Enceladus is one of the prime targets in the search for life in the solar system. Observations made by the Cassini spacecraft show that this small moon of Saturn has an ice-covered water ocean that erupts into space, forming a plume that contains almost all of the basic requirements of terrestrial life. However, the bioessential element phosphorus has yet to be found. Here we perform geochemical modeling, constrained by Cassini data, to predict how much phosphorus could be present in the Enceladus ocean. These models suggest that Enceladus' ocean should be relatively rich in dissolved phosphorus. This means that there can now be greater confidence that the ocean of Enceladus is habitable. Super awesome. Okay, let's dig into the abstract. Saturn's moon Enceladus has a potentially habitable subsurface water ocean that contains canonical building blocks of life: organic and inorganic carbon, ammonia, possibly hydrogen sulfide, and chemical energy, disequilibria for methanogenesis, for example. However, its habitability could be strongly affected by the unknown availability of phosphorus. Here, we perform thermodynamic and kinetic modeling that simulates phosphorus geochemistry based on recent insights into the geochemistry of the ocean seafloor system on Enceladus. We find that aqueous phosphorus should predominantly exist as orthophosphate, or HPO4, with a 2- charge, and total dissolved inorganic phosphorus could reach 10 to the negative 7 or 10 to the negative 2 mole per kilogram of water, generally increasing with lower pH and higher dissolved CO2, but also depending upon dissolved ammonia and silica. Levels are much higher than the fewer than 10 to the power of negative 10 mole kilograms water from previous estimates, and close to or higher than the approximately 10 to the negative 6 mole per kilograms water in modern Earth seawater. The high phosphorus concentration is primarily ascribed to a high bicarbonate concentration, which decreases the concentrations of multivalent cations via carbonate mineral formation, allowing phosphorus to accumulate. Interesting. So what I think that last line was saying is that there's a high concentration of bicarbonate ions, or bicarbonate salts, perhaps, and these can absorb the cations, or the positively charged ions, that might typically form salts with phosphorus. And so I think because a lot of those positively charged ions are being absorbed by or binding with bicarbonate, and they're forming carbonate minerals, this frees up the phosphorus, because the phosphorus isn't getting bound with all of those cations and getting locked up in whatever salts that forms. and so this allows the phosphorus to accumulate. I think that's what they're saying. I'm not sure if that's accurate. Kinetic modeling of phosphate mineral dissolution suggests that geologically rapid release of phosphorus from seafloor weathering of a chondritic rocky core could supply millimoles of total dissolved phosphorus per kilogram of water within 10 to the 5 years. What is 10 to the 5 years? 10 to the second years is 100. Third would be 1,000, 10,000. Okay, so within 100,000 years. Much less than the likely age of Enceladus's ocean, which is 10 to the 8 to 10 to the 9th years. So that would be like, oh shit, what would that be? Hundreds of millions to billions of years, I think. Yeah. So the age of Enceladus's ocean is basically hundreds of millions to billions of years old. But they're saying that geologically rapid release of phosphorus from the seafloor, so the weathering of the rocky core could provide more than enough phosphorus for life within just like 100,000 year period, which is a fraction of a fraction, several orders of magnitude lower than the actual lifetime of Enceladus's ocean. So the critical detail there is that phosphorus would have been available pretty much right from the beginning of the formation of Enceladus's oceans. And these results, to continue the abstract here, these results provide further evidence of habitable ocean conditions and show that any oceanic life would not be inhibited by low phosphorus availability. So that's really cool. Really cool stuff. Basically, any life that has emerged on your Enceladus, it's had, perhaps billions of years to evolve to go from, just redox reactions in a membrane to perhaps multicellularity or something more complex and amazing than that. And during all that time, they, according to this study, certainly have the phosphorus that they need. Inferred Enceladus ocean water, maximum Enceladus seafloor pressure. Interesting. Okay, well, that's really cool stuff. I'm sorry the article was not available. That was kind of a drag. But let's wrap this up by reading this section in their paper on the implications. Our finding that phosphate should be abundant in Enceladus's ocean implies that another major component of habitability is likely to be satisfied there. Indeed, phosphate becomes limiting for the growth of terrestrial hydrogentrophic methanogens below 10 to the minus 8 or 10 to the minus 6 molal phosphate, and this requirement can be easily satisfied by the inferred high phosphate levels in the Enceladus ocean. If life exists in the Enceladus ocean, its activity could promote the bioavailability of phosphorus. For instance, life can not only synthesize organic phosphorus and increase the concentration of total dissolved phosphorus, but also recycle organic phosphorus in the ocean column. Finding appreciable abundances of organic phosphorus-bearing species containing phosphate ester and particularly phosphoanhydride bonds would likely implicate biosynthesis, since a state of significant disequilibrium would be implied, given what we know about conditions in Enceladus's ocean. In addition, life's activities can facilitate the process of reaching thermodynamic equilibria between water and minerals via ligand-promoted mineral dissolution or biologically mediated mineral precipitation. Interesting. Further analysis enables a deeper perspective on what could ultimately limit the habitability of Enceladus's ocean. It does not appear to be CHNOPS elements, those were the critical elements we mentioned earlier, or energy sources, if the tentative detection of hydrogen sulfide and our predictions of phosphorus availability can be confirmed via either further analyses of Cassini cosmic dust analyzer data or detection by future missions. Measurements of sodium phosphate salts would enable direct testing of our geochemical model predictions, and the oceanic concentration of phosphorus in relation to the other biogenic elements would allow quantitative assessment of whether phosphorus, or a different element, is a limiting nutrient for putative life. We do not expect reduced phosphorus species to be found if the phosphorus-oxygen-hydrogen system has reached redox equilibrium in Enceladus's oceans. Our geochemical model can also be tested by making measurements of additional elements, like calcium and magnesium, that are expected to be controlled by mineral dissolution equilibria. Okay, this is going so far beyond me, I do not understand this. By determining the ocean's major ion chemistry, pH and phosphate concentration, mineral saturation indices could be evaluated to constrain the seafloor mineralogy, including the most stable phosphorus hosting phase. This would be valuable for advancing our understanding of the geochemical evolution of the ocean's seafloor system on Enceladus. Okay, so what I think they're trying to say here is that we need to look at more data, more of this like sea plume data, and do some more chemical analysis of the stuff that's coming out of these plumes in Enceladus. Because if we can find like more phosphorus containing compounds or more minerals that could give us a clue about what the seafloor looks like, this could inform our understanding of the seafloor chemistry, the seafloor geobiochemical ecology, and we can figure out and infer what's going on down there. Cassini data show that molecular hydrogen and organic compounds represent substantial sources of electron donors for microbes, including methanogens. The availability of electron acceptors, oxidants, however, is potentially limiting. Oxidant O2 and H2O2 production from radiolysis of water molecules is relatively slow on Enceladus. So it's like UV radiation breaking down water into O2 and H2O2. It's going to be slow because Enceladus is like really far away. And it's the UV exposure to the sun. I mean, I wouldn't want to have that exposure, but it's not, because it's so far away, it's not strong enough to really rapidly break down water enough to produce a significant amount of oxidants like this. I think that's what they're saying here. There may be additional complications, such as discontinuous transport of oxidants from the surface to the ocean, so it's like not getting through the ice crust, basically, or scavenging of reactive oxygen species by organic compounds in the ocean. So maybe the oxygen species are coming down through the ice crust, but you have a bunch of other reactive stuff in the ocean that's binding up all that oxygen before life can use it. The only abundantly available oxidant that has been observed is inorganic carbon in the form of carbonate species. This oxidant appears to be sufficient to allow hydrogenotrophic methanogenesis, and here's that little chemical equation for that would provide enough energy to support methanogens. However, the potential to sustain metabolisms that rely on other oxidants may be more restricted on Enceladus. So, pause for a second. What they're saying here is basically, based on the data we have already, it looks like there's enough chemical energy and oxidants and resources and stuff on Enceladus to allow for simple microbes to exist, simple methanogenic microbes. Now, to me, that's freaking amazing and mind-blowing. And it's like the fact that there's an energy minimum that's been met is incredible. Because when we talk about like life on Mars, one of the big hurdles is this energy minimum. A big problem with Mars is that, aside from the perchlorates in the soil that make it poisonous, and aside from the hyper aridity, like more arid than any environment on Earth, there's just not enough accessible biochemical energy. There's just not enough oxidants and stuff. And that's because Mars's soil content, as far as we can tell, is 0% organic matter, more or less. And so there's not even this carbonate species that could potentially, theoretically, support a methanogenic ecology. So Mars doesn't have that, but Enceladus does. And I mean, I don't know about you, but to me, that's like fucking awesome, super exciting, super crazy. Okay, let's wrap this up. Last paragraph. An additional limiting factor for possible life may be transition metals. These are needed to catalyze biological redox reactions, including methanogenesis, which uses nickel-based enzymes. The availability of transition metals in the Enceladus ocean may be scarce because of low solubilities of their mineral forms in alkaline, carbonate-rich, and reduced ocean water. So things like iron, nickel, zinc, and molybdenum, all these things aren't very soluble in the solution, the ocean environment of Enceladus. And so it's quite likely that they might actually be limiting resources. They might be in disastrously low concentrations. The researchers continue, if this effect is important, then the most habitable zone on Enceladus may be the water-rock interface, where these elements are most accessible. Alternatively, so that would be at like the very bottom of the ocean. And if this ocean is dozens or maybe hundreds of kilometers deep, the pressures down there could be immense. And that actually poses its own problem for the emergence and evolution of life. Alternatively, there may be potential to mobilize metals via chelation in an organic-rich ocean. So using like acids and organic chemicals to break down minerals and get those metal nutrients out. This is kind of like what fungus do to rocks and stuff. These considerations emphasize the next step of thinking beyond carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, and also in terms of local environments as we more deeply probe the prospects for life in Enceladus's ocean. Well, there you go, guys. That was a super cool study with super exciting implications. Hope you enjoyed that one. I know I sure did. I just think this is the coolest thing ever. And the more I read stuff like this, the more I think it's just a matter of time before we get some news report from NASA saying like, oh, hey guys, guess what crazy life form we found in the oceans of Enceladus? Yeah, it's some wicked bacteria with like traits and features and stuff we've never seen. And it's a methanogen, but it does it in a totally new way. And it's got all these different biochemicals and nucleotides, totally different. And I can't wait. It's going to be super exciting. And studies like this, just tantalizing breadcrumbs, We're so going to discover life soon. I can just feel it.